Jabahaya Jorabahaya Utaka Abaya Agni Ibahaya.
The full name of the Shurangama Sutra in Chinese, in English as well, there's one expression, it's called the hidden basis of the Tathagata. Hidden basis of the Tathagata means what? If you want to attain Anuttara Sammaksambodhi, what is the secret recipe to attain Anuttara Sammaksambodhi? Okay, because the Buddha is a human being, we are also a human being. How come the Buddha could achieve Anuttara Sammaksambodhi and we still cannot? So what is the difference? The Buddha used what to cultivate? The hidden basis, according to Shurangama, the Buddha uses the hidden basis, the secret recipe. What is the hidden basis? The hidden basis is actually the awarenesses within our senses, the awareness within the 6 faculties, which is beyond all conditions, even beyond the internal condition, the senses itself. So if you can grasp this to be your real basis to cultivate, then you'll be very fast. So remember, the Buddha explained us the what are the differences between the illusory basis versus the real basis. So every day we are using the illusory basis, the illusory mind to earn a living, or even to use the illusory mind to cultivate. That's why we are so far away. So the Buddha says, use the real basis, use the true mind to cultivate instead of the illusory one. But in order to do that, you must be able to differentiate the differences between the illusory mind and the true mind. So after you have learned the Shurangama Sutra, if you practice your shamatha and your vipassana, you are very clear what is happening in your mind. And this is Buddhism. This is Buddhism. What is the difference between Buddhism and externalism? Okay? Or other religions. Other religions or externalism, they always seek answer outward. Why is it God, universe? The universe comes from where? Or maybe created by a creator. And the scientists say don't know, come from amoeba or whatever. Always seek answer outside. And this is called externalism. Buddhism, not only search outside, but search inside. This is the difference between Buddhism and externalism or other religions. Buddhism, not only that, but seek truth internally. That's what we call insight contemplation. What is actually happening inside your mind, your mental activities? That's why in Buddhism we talk so much on the mind, your feelings lah, your what you call your sanya, your perception, mental formation, consciousness, and all these things. Because afflictions come from where? Come from your mental processes mainly. That's why there are so many cetasika out there. The what you call the mental factors. Okay, and what makes all of us look different one? Because our minds all different one. So our look also different, behaviors different, characters different, and then our karma different. While you are born as a human being, okay, it is born as a dog, and somebody is born as what you call hungry ghosts or devas or whatever. Because all our minds are different. All the mental factors are different. That makes us appear differently. So if you want to become a sage, Arahat or Buddha also, you have to change your mind. You have to, what you call, cultivate your mind. You have to cultivate your mind from a mundane one to a non-mundane one. And then you become a sage. Okay, now without delay, we invite our tutor to share the topic today.
Amitofo, Venerable Hombok, all venerables in the Zoom room tonight, brothers and sisters in the Dharma, a very good evening. My name is Supati, and thank you very much for allowing me 20 to 30 minutes of your time to let me share my understanding of tonight's topic, which is seeing awareness is beyond movement. Let me share screen. Okay, let's do a very quick recap of the previous class before I move on to this topic. Now, as Sifu said just now, after the Buddha has refuted Venerable Ananda's proposals of the 7 locations of the mind, the thus come one informed Ananda that he had mistaken his illusory mind, which is a mere mental processor, for the true mind. Then the Buddha had 10 rounds of revealing the characteristics of the true mind or seeing awareness, which is seeing awareness is the mind, seeing awareness is beyond movement, seeing awareness is not perishable, seeing awareness will not be lost, seeing awareness is not returnable, seeing awareness does not mix with objects, seeing awareness is pervasive, seeing awareness is not separable, seeing awareness is beyond logic, and seeing awareness is beyond seeing awareness itself. Last week, Sister Som brought us through the first characteristic, which is seeing awareness is the mind. She presented a couple of points that the Buddha used to convince Venerable Ananda and the assembly. Let's go through the points very briefly. So the Buddha asked Venerable Ananda if a blind man seeing darkness sees the same darkness as a sighted man seeing darkness in a pitch black room, to which Venerable Ananda replied in the affirmative, hence proving that seeing awareness is present without the need for eyes or the presence of objects. Then the Buddha asked whether a blind man who has gone through an operation to restore his sight can see as well as a sighted man, the sighted man who got out of a pitch black room. And Venerable Ananda said yes. And this goes to prove the Buddha's point that it's not the eyes that sees, it's the mind that sees. Hence, in that interaction with Venerable Ananda, the Buddha concluded that seeing awareness is the true mind. Tonight, my topic is seeing awareness is beyond movement. And I'll do my best to explain the characteristics of seeing awareness is beyond movement and how we can then differentiate between the illusory mind and the true mind through understanding what moves and what is beyond movement. So once we can tell the difference, like what Sifu said just now, we can then practice correctly to reach our final destination, which is Nibbana, or liberation from suffering. So let's look at what the sutra says. Ananda and the others in the great assembly had not understood what they had heard, and so were silent. But they hoped that they would hear the thus come one continue to proclaim the teaching. Putting their palms together, they cleared their minds and waited for the Buddha to compassionately instruct them. So Ananda and the others in the assembly were silent after hearing the Buddha. Actually, this reminds me of the many times when Sifu shared the Dharma and I kept quiet, especially when he asked, do you all understand? Because although I understood the words, I couldn't fully comprehend what he meant. Very similar to my experience in school, whenever the physics teacher explained a concept, I seemed to understand, yet not understand. So kind of in a blur state. But I want to say that this blur state is actually good news for us, because when we know that we don't know, or we are not sure that we know, then we are open and willing to learn. Contrast that to a time when you think you already know. For example, if someone today come and tell you, hey, you know how many cases are the COVID cases in Malaysia, and you've already received a WhatsApp message, you'll probably say, I know already. Yeah, so when you think you know, that's when your mind closes and you're not willing to listen. But since I'm at the state where I'm not sure that I know, I'm more willing to learn. And that is what also prompted me to take up the position of a tutor, so that I can reread, and contemplate on the sutra. So thanks to Venerable Hongbok, I can say that now I know the Surangama a little bit more. Yeah. So the thing is that the same with Venerable Ananda and the rest in the assembly. Because they did not quite understand, so now they are curious and want to wait for the Buddha's further explanations. Now, putting their palms together means that they were single-minded, determined, and focused to hear what the Buddha has to say. So let's hear what the Buddha says. Then the world-honored one stretched forth his arm and opened his shining, cotton-soft, finely wet hand, revealing the wheel-shaped lines on his fingers. To instruct Ananda and the others in the great assembly, he said, "After my awakening, I went to the deer park, where, for Ajanata Kaudinya's sake, and for the other 4 monks, and also for all of you in the 4 assemblies, I said that beings in their multitudes have not become arhats, nor have they become fully awake, because they are confused by afflictions that are like visitors and like dust." Now, before I go on to explain this part, I want to just take your attention to Deer Park. I want to tell you a little bit of story. So many kalpas ago, the Buddha in a previous life was a deer king with a herd of 500 deers. Guess what? His cousin Devadatta was there too, also a deer king with another 500 deers. Now, what happened at that time was that there were animals, and deers were one of his favorites. So the 2 deer kings decided to go see the human king with a proposal. And the proposal was this. They told the king that each day he would kill between 7 and 8 deers. And he couldn't finish all the deers, so it is very wasteful. They proposed that every day, 1 deer would offer itself to the king, so the king can have fresh venison every day and not run out of supply. So the king agreed, and on alternate days, the Buddha and Devadatta would send a deer. One day, it was the turn of a pregnant doe from Devadatta's herd to go sacrifice herself. She pleaded with Devadatta to let her give birth first before she goes offer herself. But Devadatta refused, saying that no other deer would want to die either. So this pregnant doe went to see the Buddha and asked for a temporary exchange. The Buddha thought about it and realized that no other deer would want to die either. But he told the pregnant doe to stay in his herd. The king deer then went to offer himself as sacrifice to the king. The king was surprised and asked if all the deers in the Buddha's herd had been eaten. The Buddha answered that on the contrary, actually the deer population is increasing. The king only eats 1 deer a day, but many does give birth in any one day. Shakyamuni Buddha further explained, there is a pregnant doe whose spawn will be born in a day or two. It was her turn to come today, but she wanted to wait until she had given birth before she come and let the king eat her. So she came to me and pleaded to have someone else, another deer, take her place. I thought over her request and realized that none of the deer in the herd would want to die before they had to. So I came myself to substitute for her. Now, when the king heard this, he was profoundly moved, and he said, from now on, don't send any more deer to the palace. Then he spoke a verse. You are a deer with a human head. I'm a human with a deer head. From this day forward, I will not eat the flesh of living beings. So with this vow, the deer population of the park increased significantly. So what is the message behind this story? To become a Buddha, we need to develop compassion. Out of compassion, the Buddha was willing to sacrifice everything he was bestowed, his kingdom, and even his life in this particular lifetime as the deer king, for the benefits of others. So for those of us who want to be liberated, remember the foremost quality that we need to develop is compassion. Let me go back to the sutra. So the Buddha said that beings in their multitudes have not become arhats, nor have they been fully awake, because they are confused by afflictions that are like visitors and like dust. So let's take a look at what the Buddha meant, because when we fully internalize this point, you will receive an aha moment, a realization that will help you to differentiate between the illusory mind and the true mind. So the Buddha asked the five of his early disciples, what in particular at that time caused the five of you to awaken and become sages? Now the five Ajanata Kaudinya stood up and said respectfully to the Buddha, of all the elders here in this great assembly, I was the one who was given the name Ajñata, meaning one who understands, because I had come to realize what visitor and dust signify. It was in this way that I became a sage. Now, who is Venerable Ajanata Kaudinya? He was actually one of five who practiced with the Buddha when the Buddha was living an ascetic life of severe self-discipline and abstention from all forms of indulgence. The Buddha was reportedly eating 1 grain of rice and 1 grain of sesame a day. He was so emaciated, he was just skin and bones. Then one day, a heavenly maiden offered him milk gruel, which he took, which led to the 5 companions leaving him. So the Buddha then proceeded to cultivate alone. And on the 8th day of the 12th moon, he became enlightened. After his enlightenment, the Buddha saw that it was Ajanata Kaudinya that he had to convert first. Why? Because Ajanata Kaudinya had in a previous lifetime been the king of Kalinga, and he had killed the Buddha by cutting him from limb to limb. And in that lifetime, the Buddha had vowed that when he became a Buddha, he would save the king of Kalinga. Let's hear what Venerable Ajanata Kaudinya has to say further. World-honored one, suppose a visitor stops at an inn for a night or for a meal. Once his stay is ended or the meal is on his way, he's not at leisure to remain. But if he were the innkeeper, he would not leave. By considering this example of the visitor, the one who comes and goes, and the innkeeper, the one who remains, I understood what the visitor signifies. He represents transience. Venerable Ajanata Kaudinya had the realization of the difference between a visitor who changes or is transient and innkeeper who remains. So the visitor relates or means thinking, mental processing, the illusory mind, whereas the innkeeper represents the pure nature and bright substance of the true mind. So when he was able to differentiate between the characteristics of the illusory and true mind, one moves and one stays, then he was enlightened to the truth. Again, suppose the morning skies have cleared after a rain. Then a beam of pure light from the rising sun may shine through a crack in the door to reveal some motes of dust in the room. The dust moves, but space in the room is still. Thus, by consideration of this example, the dust, which as it moves obscures the space, but the space itself remains still, I understood what the dust may signify. It represents motion. And the Buddha said, so it is. So the dust moves, but space in the room is still. If the sun doesn't shine in the crack, you cannot see the dust, although there is dust everywhere. While the dust moves and bobs up and down, the space is still, it doesn't move. Ajanata then realized or understood that the space in the room is the true mind. It's like the true mind, which is not movable. Whereas the illusory mind is like the dust that bounces up and down. So the true mind, let me repeat that, the true mind or seeing awareness does not move. The illusory mind does. Now what about the beam of pure light? The beam of pure light represents the attainment of wisdom, the light of wisdom. So when you have the wisdom to see your ignorance, you will also realize the unmoving stillness of your true mind. So when Ajanata Kaudinya understood this, he was enlightened. Now let me ask a question that I think many of us here has. How come Venerable Ajanata Kaudinya heard this and he was immediately enlightened, while the rest of us here heard the same thing, but we are still not enlightened? Now Now the difference is that the Venerable has less dust in his eyes. He has spent years cultivating through looking inwards, while I, and perhaps some of you in this room, has been very busy making a living in the illusory world outside. Let's continue. Thereupon, the thus come one before the assembly made a fist with his wheel-lined fingers, and having made the fist, he opened his hand again. Once his hand was open, he made the fist again and said to Ananda, "What did you see just now?" And Ananda said,
I saw the dust come one before the assembly, open and close his hand over his resplendent wheel-lined palm.
The Buddha said to Ananda, "You saw me here before the assembly open and close my hand. Was it my hand that opened and closed? Or did your seeing awareness open and close?" Ananda said,
It was the Well-Honored One's resplendent hand that opened and closed before the assembly. Although I saw his hand open and close, my seeing awareness neither open nor close.
The Buddha said, "What moved and what was still?" Ananda said,
The Buddha's hand moved, but my awareness is beyond even stillness. How could it have moved?
And the Buddha replied, "So it is." Here, in this passage, Venerable Ananda showed that he understood what the Buddha was teaching. The Buddha's hand had opened and closed, but Venerable Ananda said his seeing awareness neither open nor close. Venerable Ananda also said that his seeing awareness is beyond stillness. How could it have moved? Why did he say that it's beyond even stillness? Why not just my awareness is still? Because in this world of this world of duality, this Saha world, there are always two extremes. So when you have hot, you have cold. When you have black, you have white. You have up, you have down, and when you are in, you are out. So if you have stillness, it means there must be movement. Since seeing awareness does not have the characteristics of stillness, how could it have moved? So it is beyond stillness. And the Buddha then certified that Venerable Ananda is enlightened to this truth. Let's continue. Then from his wheel-lined palm, the Buddha sent forth a ray of resplendent light that flew past Ananda to his right. Ananda immediately turned his head and glanced to the right. Then the Buddha sent a ray of light to Ananda's left. Ananda turned his head again and glanced to the left. The Buddha said to Ananda, "Why did you turn your head just now?" And Ananda said,
I saw the dust come one, send forth a wondrous ray of shining light, which flew past me on my right. Then another ray flew past me on my left. My head moved as I looked to the right and to the left.
Ananda, when you glance at the Buddha's light and move your head to the right and left, was it in fact your head that moved? Or else was it your seeing awareness that moved?
Well-Honored One, it was my head that moved. The nature of my seeing awareness is beyond even stillness. How then could it have moved?
And the Buddha confirmed or reconfirmed that Ananda is indeed enlightened to this truth. So here is a nice picture of the Buddha sending light to the right of Ananda. Let me try and recreate the analogy or the experience of the Buddha's teaching. I'm going to show you a video, and this is a very short 15-second video that is soundless. What I want you to see is to look at the clouds and the sky and tell me what moved and what was still. Was it the clouds that moved or was it the sky that moved? Okay, a 15-second video. So what was it that moved? So what do you see that moved?
The cloud is moving.
The clouds moved. And what was still?
The sky.
The sky was still. Thank you very much. So the sky that you saw just now, or the sky that we look up to in the morning or in the daytime, actually represents the true mind. It is beyond movement. But the cloud or the illusory mind is the one that moves. Then the Taskamuan told everyone in the assembly, all beings need to understand that whatever moves is like dust and like a visitor does not remain. Just now you saw it was Ananda's head that moved, while his seeing awareness did not move. It was my hand that opened and closed, while his awareness did not open or close. How can you take what moves to be your body and its environment, since they come into being and perish in every successive thought? You have lost track of your true nature, and instead you act out of delusion. Therefore, because you have lost touch with your mind's true nature, by identifying yourself with the objects you perceive, you keep on being bound to the cycle of death and rebirth. So here, in this passage, the Buddha admonished the assembly. What the Buddha said was, in layman's terms, since you understand that everything that moves like the dust and the visitor does not remain, why do you take your physical body and the environment that you're in to be real? Sounds like the Buddha is also talking to us, isn't it? Everything that we know arises and perishes. Our body being the most evidence. We grow older by the day. If you look around in our environment, things change. The weather changes, the traffic changes, the results in the US election changes by the moment. Our thoughts come, our feelings are transient. Let me give you an example that many of us could have experienced before. Let's say you are in a car park and you are walking towards your car. As you get nearer, you notice there is a deep dent at the side of your car. A thought will probably arise immediately. And the thought could be an angry thought, like some idiotic driver probably knocked or backed his car into my car. And then feelings of sadness and anger arise at the same time. Then you probably walked more quickly towards your car. And as you got nearer, you saw that the car plate number is different. It's not your car after all. Just the same model and same color. What happened to your feelings of anger and of sadness? They move, right? They change straight away to a feeling of happiness and relief. So what you have experienced is that illusory mind. It's not your true mind. Let me give you another example. How many of us here likes to watch movies and dramas? Let's have a show of hands. How many of you here watches movies and drama? Oh yeah, okay, a number of you do that. When we watch a sad movie, especially the ladies in this room, do you cry when something like unfortunate happens? Somebody dies, you cry, right? Now, some of us, when we watch action movies, we actually fight along with the likes of Ip Man, James Bond, and all these action characters. When we watch a thriller or a scary movie, I think most of us, maybe I'm speaking for myself, I cringe in fear and I close my eyes, which was what happened during the RMCO. RMCO is a Recovery Movement Control Order. When I took the opportunity to see the movie Tenet, half the time in the movie, I was huddled over and trying not to hear, trying not to see what's going on in the screen. I went to the movies knowing I was watching a movie, yet my illusory mind pulled me into the illusory movie. So that's how easy it is to buy into illusion. Let me take it one step further. What if I tell you that the Buddha said we are already in our own illusory movie? What we see as our reality is a movie created by our illusory mind. Of course, I am the main actor in my movie, with all of you here as my supporting actors. Some of you have bigger roles and more important roles than others. Lucy is the star of her own movie, so is our new Chan leader, Wing Shing. All of us are the star of our own movies, which starts from the time you're born till when this body dies. Some of us have created more exciting scripts. Others have more mundane ones. But still, we are in illusion. So being a human here and now means we are in illusion. But the good news is this. Most of us who are in this Zoom room are here because we want to stop the future production of further movies. So let me go back to the screen, share screen. And the Buddha said that because you've lost touch with your true nature, by identifying yourself with the objects you perceive, you keep on being bound to the cycle of death and rebirth. Now, because we have forgotten our true mind and we concentrate on our illusory mind, so much so that for many, many years and many lifetimes, we keep identifying with the illusory mind. So now, we are less in touch with what our true mind is. So when Ananda and the Great Assembly heard the Buddha's teachings, their bodies and their minds were serene. They realized that since time without beginning, they had strayed from the fundamental true mind. Instead, they had been mistaken about the conditioned objects of perception and had made distinctions about what are in fact nothing but shadowy mental events. So after hearing the Buddha, Venerable Ananda and the assembly, and I believe the people in this Zoom room here tonight, realized that we have been paying attention to the wrong thing. We have been paying attention to the stories that's happening outside our minds, instead of investigating what's true and what is real, which is our true mind. Now they had all awakened, and each was like a lost infant suddenly reunited with his beloved mother. Putting their palms together, they bowed to the Buddha. They wished to hear the thus come one reveal the contrasting qualities of body and mind, what is true and what is false about them, what is real and what is insubstantial, what comes into being and then ceases to be, and what neither comes into being nor perishes. So now, after hearing the Buddha's explanation, they are all awakened and they wanted to hear more. So my question is, are we all awakened to this truth yet? I think many of us understand the concept at the level of theory, and many of us still wonder what we need to do to wake up from this dream that seems so real. Some of us are in our 60s and 70s, and I think some of us may be in despair, thinking whether we have time to be enlightened in this lifetime. Let's look at it, whether it's true or not. We are really paying attention to the stories instead of to what is real. For example, and I pick on what Sifu said just now, when something goes wrong and we are upset, I think for most of us, and I say most of us, not all of us, for most of us, the automatic reaction is to look outside, to look at who to blame or what to blame for creating the upset in us. Instead of investigating, why am I upset? Or who is upset? Or what is feeling upset? Now, I think we are all very invested with what's happening outside of us. Like just now, I talked about, we are interested in what's happening in the US election. We are interested in what our neighbors do. We are interested in things outside of us that is not really connected to us. And when people tell us to meditate, then we say, "Oh no, I don't have time. I don't have the ability to meditate." So we are not looking inside. We want to look outside. But guess what? Although we may be in despair, thinking what we need to do, the Buddha said that it is actually really simple to end death and rebirth. All you need to do is to seize the mad mind, the conscious mind, the illusory mind, from moment to moment. The only way is not to follow the bidding of the illusory mind. So the sea of suffering is boundless. A turn of the head is the other shore. Like what my Dharma sister Chai Wei explained to me. Don't keep swimming in the sea of samsara. Just practice insight, a turn of head, practice insight. Here insight is spelled as INSIGHT. And you will see Nibbana, the other shore. So it's really simple, but I didn't say it is easy. Neither did the Buddha say it's easy. You need to have effort, you need energy, and you need determination. And I think many of us have practiced for some time, and sometimes we get irritated with ourselves for not being able to practice properly, not giving time, not putting in sufficient time and effort. But remember the story in the Deer King? To attain Buddhahood, one needs to practice compassion. And for me, my belief is that compassion starts with ourselves. So whenever you feel upset with yourself for not practicing that much, instead of spending time scolding yourself and being angry with yourself, be patient with yourself. Just recognize that there is a feeling of anger and go back to practice. So in each moment, you strive to recognize your illusory mind, so that in that moment, you are in your true mind. On the other hand, also learn to be compassionate to others. Recognize that even though the many brothers and sisters here, we are practicing together, sometimes some of us may behave not so 100% either in the chat group or when organizing events. Recognize that sometimes people behave like this because they are in illusion, and forgive them. And then share the Dharma in a proper manner when they are ready to listen. That's compassion. So in summary and in conclusion, today we cover this topic. Seeing awareness is beyond movement. In fact, it's beyond stillness as well. So I hope that today you have found the information useful for your contemplation and guidance for your practice. This is my last sharing on the Surangama online course in 2020. I'd like to thank Venerable Hong Bok for this amazing opportunity to study the sutra and share whatever knowledge I have.
Okay, thank you, Supati, for a wonderful presentation. Just turn the head over to see the other shore. That's the direction to home. That's the direction of Nibbana bliss. You want to go home, you want to go back to Nibbana, to achieve Nibbana. No need to look for the answers outside. The answers and truths are not outside. It's inside the mind. And the more you contemplate, you see a serene mind there. That mind is beyond all movements. It is not being moved by any objects, cannot be carried away by any memories, people, events, and that serene mind cannot be influenced by any external or internal conditions, and not being shaken by any conditions. And this is called the concept of beyond movement. The reason why our mind is always moved, always carried away, influenced by and shaken by other conditions, other things, is because we are lacking of the power of shamatha and vipassana. We fail to identify the illusory thoughts, the dust in this case, the dust, and we fail to identify the true mind that is serene beyond all movements and even beyond stillness itself. Why? Because stillness is still a concept. Once your mind says, oh, my mind is still, then your mind has actually moved by the concept of stillness. When Buddha asked Venerable Ananda, your body moves right and left and right, but is your seeing awareness being moved by my light? Venerable Ananda said, my seeing awareness is even beyond stillness. How can it be moved by the light or by the body, the physical body? The true mind or the state of Nirvana is beyond all conditions. In this case, beyond movement means the concept of our true mind, the state of Nirvana, cannot be influenced or moved by any conditions or objects. Even the body, physical body dies, or the physical body moves, it will not affect the true mind. It will not affect Nirvana. But the illusory mind, yes, it is. The illusory mind can be moved by feelings. The illusory mind can be carried away by other, what you call sense. The illusory mind can be influenced by people, by memories, by events. The illusory mind can be shaken by fear. Yes, the illusory mind is movable, shakeable, can be influenced, but true mind is not. So if you can't recognize when your mind being carried away by your upset feeling, also you don't know. Then that's why this is called ignorant. Ignorant, you don't know. And you call avidya. What is called avidya? Avidya means don't know lah. No knowledge. Vidya is knowledge or know. A is negative prefix. So avidya means don't know. Don't know why your mind is being caught by your upset feeling. Remember, the dust is always there. The dust is always there in the air. Correct. When can you see the dust? When the sun shines through the crack, right? When the sun is bright enough to shine through the crack, then only within the space you can see dust floating in the air. Correct? If it is dark, you cannot see the dust. So what does it mean? If you don't contemplate, you don't practice contemplation, you don't practice vipassana, you don't put a torchlight in, you cannot see illusory thoughts within your mind. And in fact, they are there. So many of you, when you chant the mantra, Shurangama Dharani, or you are chanting the Amitabha names, or you chant the sutra, or you practice what you call Anapanasati, a meditation or whatever, all sorts of practices. You might have had this experience before. The more I chant, the more illusory thoughts come out. Correct? The more I meditate, the more illusory thoughts inside my mind. So I better don't chant. When I stop chanting, when I stop meditating, my illusory thoughts all gone. True? Have you had this experience before? And in fact, it is not true. The illusory thoughts are like the dust. They are always there. When there is dust, without the sunlight shining on through them, you can't see dust. So, if you practice mindfulness, chanting Amitabha's name in the Mahayana, what you call the Pure Landers, or Anapanasati, or meditation, or chanting the mantra or Dharani also, if through the practice you see illusory thoughts in your mind, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. It means you have now shown light, contemplative light into your mind and see all your rubbish. You see all the dust. And if you keep on practicing, you will experience that, I recognize that the illusory thoughts are like dust. They come and go, they move here and move there, float here, float there, and they come and go. And it is not my mind. They are guests. By guests in the hotel, they come and go. The mind that watches all these changes is the host. It's not movable. That's the mind that you should grasp onto at the initial stage of cultivation. And those retreatees, when they have not they don't have the condition to meet good gurus, somehow they will lost track in between. Those retreatees, when they are they go for retreats and then they practice 1 week, 2 weeks, and then they will start to have like two minds. Why got arising thoughts, and then got one thought not change one, not movable one. And if they don't have the correct master to guide them, they will go insane. They don't know which mind is the true mind. They don't know which mind to grasp onto and which mind to let go. And at the end, they are confused by two minds. Actually, the illusory mind versus the true mind. Actually, it's the vipassana mind, the watchful mind. And they will go insane if they don't have the correct guidance. They don't know which mind is theirs. Confused. So if you cultivate until that stage, then now you have learned the Sharangama. Now you know which mind to let go and which mind to grasp onto, and further continue your cultivation and practice. Grasp that one that is unmovable one. The one that sees the rising and falling of the illusory thoughts. That is the mind which is close to the real mind. It is not 100% close, 100% true, but it is close to the true mind. Now we try to introduce you another concept. Okay, it is not 100% true, but quite close. You should hold on to that. And the mind that rises and falls, let them go. Don't bother about that. Don't bother about your feelings. When you're meditating, annoying feeling comes in. Oh, and then later on it fades away. And then another thought of a happy thought comes into the mind, and it fades away. And then you think of your daughter, the thought arises, and then it fades away. So keep on concentrating like that until you see all your illusory thoughts come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go. And then you know, all these feelings, perception and all this, it's not your mind. Just let them go. And then sit on to the mind that watches, that contemplates. That is not being moved by any of the conditions. The watchful mind is not being carried away by your feelings, not being carried away by your memories, not being influenced by your character, not being shaken by your fear. That watchful mind is beyond all conditions, beyond all movement, in fact, beyond stillness also, the concept of stillness also. Grasp onto that at the initial practice. And actually, what the Buddha had pointed out to us here is that why the Buddha, sent forth light to Ananda's right and left, purposely made Venerable Ananda turn his head right and left. Why? The Buddha want Ananda to realize that this body can be influenced, can be moved by, can be carried away by, can be shaken by other, all sorts of conditions. But the true mind, the seeing awareness, cannot be moved by, cannot be carried away by, cannot be influenced and shaken by any other conditions. The Buddha said to Ananda, you saw me, the Buddha asked Venerable Ananda, you saw me, the Buddha, here before the assembly, open and close my hand, and my hand that open and close, or your seeing awareness open and close. The Buddha's hand to Venerable Ananda, to us, is an object of form. And awareness is our subject of seeing. Please pay attention to the third point there, the third point. The Buddha said to Ananda, you saw me before the assembly opened and closed my hand. Was it my hand that opened and closed, or your seeing? Now, two questions here. The Buddha's hand open, close, or your seeing awareness open, close? Okay. Now, Sifu hand to you, a form of subject of seeing. Object, correct?
So your hand is the object of seeing.
Of you, right? Of Supati, right?
Yes, yes.
Sifu's hand is an object to Supati, right?
Correct.
Okay. Sifu's hand to you is an object of form. Okay. But without contemplation, when we see things, see objects, we only aware of objects. We are not aware that there is a subject of seeing. So for a sight to take place, it involves two things, at least: the object of being seen and your subject of seeing. In this case, it's called the seeing awareness. Usually when we see things, we only see objects only. Oh, Sakura la, Sifu's hand la, but you have forgotten about your subject of seeing always. So now, after today's lesson, please bear in mind, for a sight to take place, it must at least involve two things: the object of being seen and also your subject of seeing, which is your faculty, your seeing awareness. Two things involved. So now the Buddha asked Venerable Ananda and all of you here. Now, Sifu hands move, okay? Move, okay? Sifu hands open and close, open and close. The object opens and closes, right? How about your subject of seeing? Is your subject of seeing moved, open and close, opens and closes?
No.
Sifu's image to you is an object of form, correct? Now this object of form, it appears and disappears. Appears and disappears. So the object at one moment appears and the other moment disappears and keeps on changing. Okay, object changes, opens, appears and disappears. How about your subject of seeing? The Buddha asked, did your seeing awareness open and close? So environment, objects out there, they are always coming and going. They are always appearing and disappearing. But your seeing awareness, which is your mind in this case, because seeing awareness is a mind, is a true mind, is beyond movement, cannot be moved, cannot be carried away by the objects that move. This is how we get back the true mind. This is how we head for the direction of Nibbana. Okay? The third point as well, Buddha asked Ananda, when you glance at the Buddha's light and move your head to the right and left, was it in fact your head that moved? Or else was it your seeing awareness that moved? Now also two questions. One is the Buddha is asking, now your head turned left to left, right, your body moves. Is your body moving or your seeing awareness moving? How can you take what moves to be your body and environment? Means that how the body, our body, which is our faculty, our inner faculty, environment is external objects. So our inner faculties and external objects, they come and go, they move around. They move around like the dust floating in the air, move around. Your physical body also is a dust. It's moving, it's gas. It's not yours. Because you have lost touch with your mind, your true mind that is beyond movement, by identifying yourself with the objects you perceive. Okay? What are the objects of perception? Not only the external environment is the objects, but your body is also one of the objects. Your body is also one of the objects because your body has the same characteristics as the outer objects. They come and go, appear and disappear. Your body also like that. So how can you take your body to be yours and forgot about the true mind, which is beyond all movement? That's why you are bound to the cycle of rebirth. So the external objects, Sifu's image to you is an object. Object comes and go. Objects come and go. Objects are like dust, gas. Your body also, your physical body is also like dust and gas. They come and go, they move around. But the true mind, the seeing awareness, which is a true mind, is like the space, is like the host of the hotel, is always there. So failing which, identifying the host, the space which is beyond all movement, the true mind, and you mistaken the physical body to be your body. You've mistaken the objects to be your what you call the objects of your attachment. Then that's why you are bound to the cycle of rebirth. You are inside the illusion. This is why we are bound to the cycle of rebirth, because we have failed to recognize the host, the space which is beyond all movement and influences. Instead, we take the illusory mind, which is moved and influenced by the external objects and influenced by these inner faculties to be the mind, the capacity of the mind. That's why we are being cheated by these illusions, and that's why we are bound to the cycle of rebirth. So this is the difference between a sage and an ordinary being. A sage like Ajñata Kaudinya, an Arhat. Why is he called an Arhat? He got two eyes, we also have two eyes. He has one nose, one mouth, also we have. What makes us different? Because Venerable Ajñata Kaudinya, he managed to see the true mind that is beyond all influences, beyond all movement. Even this body is subject to impermanence. That's why I have to let go. Don't cling on to it. And the external object also more illusory. But the mind is real. So stay there and ultimately from all bondages. That is called liberation. Liberation is something like this kind of state. Your mind is totally freed from all bondages. Your mind is free from all influences. The influence are outside the objects, the influence are inside your faculty. So if you can contemplate until that state of mind, even though one day your body, forsake, or your body, it won't influence your mind, your true mind. So what the Buddha is trying to say here is, recognize the host, get rid of all the gas, and let go all the dust. Yours. What are the dust and the gas? The outer environment, the objects outside, are not yours. They are gas and dust. Let them go. They fade away eventually. And not only the outside world, the environment, faculties, your inner organs, your inner senses, they are also illusory. They are also gas, so dust, they move around. They are not yours. This body is not yours. The outer environment is not yours. But the mind, which is not moved, which cannot be moved by the outer objects and the inner faculties, that is yours. So the second point is that they wished to hear the first come one reveal the contrasting. Okay, this is a keyword here. To reveal the contrasting qualities of the body and mind. The mind here refers to the true mind. Okay, the physical body is true, or the vice versa. Which one is real and which is insubstantial? The physical body is real or insubstantial, or the true mind is real and insubstantial? The mind refers to the seeing awareness, refers to the true mind, which is beyond movement, beyond all influences, okay, beyond all conditions. So the body is real or the true mind is real?
True mind.
True mind is true. Then which is false?
The physical body.
Yes, the physical body and also the outside world, the environment. Okay. The next set of qualities. Between the body, the physical body, and the true mind, which one is real and which one is insubstantial?
True mind is real.
True mind is real, and which one is insubstantial?
The physical body.
Yes, the physical body is insubstantial, and also the outside environment. Okay, because it is movable. Okay, it's movable. It comes gas and dust. Okay, it is not yours. The mind is the real host. Okay, next one. The next one. Between the body versus the true mind, which comes into being and then ceases to be, and which neither comes into being nor perishes?
The one that is come into being and then ceases, that is the body.
Yeah.
Then neither comes into being nor perishes is our true mind.
Yeah, neither coming nor going is the true mind. Correct. Now you roughly can recognize the differences between the illusory body, the illusory environment, true mind. These are the keywords. One more time. One more time. Between the physical body and the true mind, which one is true and which one is false?
The true mind is true. The physical body is false.
Good. And between the physical body and the true mind, which one is real and which one is insubstantial?
The true mind is real and the body is insubstantial.
Yes. And between the physical body and the true mind, which comes into being and then ceases to be, means impermanent. And which one is neither coming nor...
The physical body comes into being and then ceases to be. And the true mind neither comes into being nor perishes.
Yeah, very good. Now, more or less, you can reckon, at least after today's lesson, you should be able to differentiate the characteristics of the illusory mind and the illusory body, illusory outside environment versus the characteristics of the true mind, which you're seeing awareness here.